on that kind of note, the spirits, I want to touch on the role of a very influential media company, Disney, because they are probably the main avenue for children's entertainment, I would say, right? Probably the biggest child entertainment group in the world, maybe, with not just physical theme parks, but also retail products and movie franchises and television shows and the whole nine yards. And they have come out with a number of products that will uplift this concept of the immortality of the soul. In fact, isn't there a movie that they had recently called Soul?
Yeah. And it all discussed the idea of, where did the soul come from and can it exist outside of the body? I mean, these are all not biblical concepts at all. In fact, the ideas that were presented in that were very intermixed with Mormonism ideas, and that their soul is something that sent down and boom, and then can live distinct outside of that. And so I believe all of this spiritualism that is being loosely taught, and how much more insidious than to teach it to kids, right?
Yeah.
Why do we teach kids
when they're moldable?
Yeah,
when they're moldable.
Very moldable.
Why do we teach kids little kid-friendly versions of the Bible when they're little, and we keep adding more information as they're older? So by the time they're old, how do they learn about the kingdom of God? We've taught them all along the way by telling them stories. What's the Bible?
But that's indoctrination.
Whole bunch of stories. We learn from stories. I mean, that's a proven fact.
Yeah.
And Jesus often told stories so that we could understand in our language, oh yeah, that's what the kingdom of heaven is like. Well, the devil's watching that and observing that and going, that's a really great way to get your message across.
Yep.
So he begins with kids. And that's what's really problematic with Disney, because they have sold you this candy-coated, cookie-cutter version of witchcraft that is not alarming. You read the Old Testament, Deuteronomy 18:10-12. If you were involved in witchcraft, sorcery, magic, divination, any of those things, necromancy, speaking to the dead, all of those were literally an abomination to God.
Right.
Yeah.
That is a strong word that God uses for this is not acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no one of my people should be involved in this.
Right.
But yet that's the most how could you stamp this? Family-friendly
Version.
content that is acceptable inside of the church.
Well, all nursery rhymes even, right?
They're evil.
pretty dark.
Yeah, they do have a lot of dark history to them, don't they? Ring Around the Rosie.
It's about death.
Yeah, it is.
London Bridge is falling down, killing tons of people, fell down and broke his crown.
Rockabye Baby on the treetop.
Yeah, exactly.
Falls down and breaks.
Good night, kid.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah, have a good night.
It's terrible.
Yeah, and it's been going around. I mean, you were talking about Walt Disney himself was a 33rd degree Freemason. And then now we see even, you can flip the...
And people still question that it's okay to listen and watch it.
Yeah.
When we know that they are Luciferian at the core.
Yeah. You guys have done a lot of work on
We've
the
done
Disney
a lot of
movies.
work on that topic. And see, I was not somebody that grew up with Disney. I did not have sisters. I'm one of 4 boys. We did not watch princess movies. Still to this day, have not seen a lot of the princess movies. And so I was not exposed to those kind of concepts. And just a really interesting story on how this even came about for us to explore this is, as we would talk about superheroes and those kind of things, because that's what I was into, people would say, well, my kids don't watch that evil stuff, but they watch this. What do you know about that? Well, I didn't know much about it. So, of course, I knew who the characters were. But my brother and I were working on this video project for this particular company that was flying us around to all the different cities. We were shooting in kind of basically 11 of the main cities in the U.S. And we came in after shooting one day, late night. We walked into the hotel room, and in the middle of the floor was a DVD of Mulan 2, okay? Didn't even know who Mulan was. And my brother, we had already started working in ministry. And so he goes, oh, wow, what is this? Because when is the last time you walked into a hotel room and seen something on the floor? That's not a common experience, right?
No.
I've been in lots of hotel rooms, never seen that.
Yeah.
And it was late night. My brother goes, let's watch it. And I said, no, I'm not watching this. I'm going to bed. He stayed up and watched it. And when we woke up in the morning, he said, I know what they're doing. And I said, what? And he quickly scrubbed through on his computer and showed me the scene that said, when Mulan was discussing with the other princess who was supposed to get involved in an arranged marriage, and she said, you have to choose between duty and heart. When the rules tell you to do one thing, how do you choose between following the rules and listening to your heart?
Yeah.
And it was from that premise that I just went, oh my goodness, are they attacking the Ten Commandments? And then it was just every single movie has this element of breaking God's rules.
Follow your heart.
So
follow your heart.
You would say that one of Disney's main methods is to attack the law of God by creating this rules or no rules. Isn't Frozen have that
Frozen
kind
is
of...
iconic about that. And then Frozen is very interesting because it was such a highly watched film. Tons of kids. Yeah, you go into any audience and you ask, okay, which little kid here has seen this, right? Their main song is called Let It Go.
Yeah.
And a phrase in Let It Go says, there is no right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free of all that. Now, the thing that I've learned about a song, can you sing the ABCs? Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
When was the last time you sang that?
Probably recently because I have a 2-year-old.
Oh, okay. But before you sang it to your 2-year-old, it had probably been 20 years plus already, right? And it's like you learn the ABCs to this song, but yet your mind never forgot that song.
It's imprinted.
It is totally imprinted.
Imprinted in the mind.
Yeah.
And so what I've learned about music is when you want to learn something to music, you learn it to a song. And when Moses taught the children of Israel the Ten Commandments, he taught them in song.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
So that they would never forget the law of God.
Song of Moses.
Right? The Song of Moses. Like they learn things through song. Right. And all these kids that we're teaching today that are paying attention to all this worldly media are learning that song that says there's no right, no wrong, no rules for me, and I'm free of that. And you do it to a song, they're never, ever gonna forget that.
Jingles in advertising is one of the most effective ways. I still have jingles stuck in my head for window companies in my hometown of Champaign, Illinois. And it's like, why would I remember that, 20, 30 years later?
Yep.
Here's a jingle. Sing the McDonald's one.
Oh, yeah. Which one? Da, 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 da.
Da, 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 da. I think everybody on the planet could probably sing that, even if you never ate at McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly.
And so people have to recognize there is power in music.
Yeah.
And what Disney has really perfected is mixing music with a theology. Mm-hmm. And when you take a step back and you analyze the theology through the Bible, this is why it is important. You can't just look at the media. You have to look at what is the Bible telling me that is I'm supposed to say. Now, I just learned this that was really fascinating. Pixar, who is a subsidiary of Disney, is hugely watched content. They made Toy Story. They made all these other things. And not just watched by kids, watched by adults as well.
Yeah.
They have a new film coming out that's called Elemental. And it was all about this fire character that is going to fall in love with this water character. And it was like, oh, how cute. They're opposites and stuff like that. But as they're walking through the trailer and she's walking through a bus, she walks by wind and she walks by earth and stuff. So they have these elements, earth, wind, water, fire, right? Mm-hmm. And it's called Elemental. So I start digging around and I go, well, what else is God teaching this elemental? Because I know I've looked at, this is the 5 points of witchcraft. That's why you see earth, wind, water, fire, spirit. That's what an upside down pentagram is really actually getting at, is teaching those elemental things. When you get involved in witchcraft, you learn one of the first pieces of magic is elemental witchcraft. And they call it elemental witchcraft. Yeah. And so I'm sitting there going, well, why are they teaching kids witchcraft? And I know Disney's got, sugarcoating the witchcraft, right? Yeah. So I started looking at Frozen. What's interesting about Frozen too? What do you think she controls? Oh, interesting. Earth, wind, fire, and water. And they even talk about it in Frozen, like she's got the water spirit and the fire spirit and the earth spirit. And I started digging around on the internet and looking at real witches teaching elemental witchcraft. And they say that when you raise your hands to the sky like this and you call the 4 quarters of the earth for water, wind, earth, and fire, you invite the spirit into the circle. Pause on Frozen. She's standing in the middle of a circle, and she's literally calling it in. That is witchcraft sold to children.
So Disney is essentially a medium to teach children witchcraft.
A medium.
It's not just that. It's Fantastic Four. You got the rock guy,
Right.
the fire guy.
Right.
She's see-through. She's like wind. You've got the, it's
Like
in so
progressively
Yeah.
maturing through the different
it
superhero
is in
concepts.
so
and-
many things, this elemental witchcraft. And it's like that to me is what Disney is perfected, is servicing sorcery, witchcraft, and the things that are not of God.
Even their logo today, if you have Disney Plus up there, a lot of people won't recognize it, but there is 666 in the logo. There is, when you flip one of their logos around, instead of Mickey, it says Wicked.
Yeah.
That was crazy. I saw that.
So weird. And, people will be like, oh, well, it's not really 6. It's kind of backwards. Well, you don't just write 666 on the top and call it a day. You artistically merge it into these things. And I'd like to, Felipe, if we could, bring up the connection with Disney and our, favorite group, the Jesuits. And I say favorite being facetious. But that it's not just Disney operating as a corporation. There's actually something more happening, that the Catholic Church is influencing this content as well. And you like we've said already a couple times, we will know them by their fruits.
Yeah.
Because there's only two sides, it's either for God or against God, we can see that Disney's actually working in conjunction with the Jesuit order in the fact that they have appointed some years ago now, it might even be 2 decades, Father, and I say father in quotation marks because I despise saying that, Father Leo O'Donovan, who is the former president of Georgetown University. Now, Leo O'Donovan is also the confessing priest of one Joe Biden. And Disney brought Leo O'Donovan on board a number of years ago. And you ask yourself, what's the point of bringing a Jesuit priest, not just a Jesuit priest, but the president of the most notable Jesuit university in the United States, Georgetown, on your board? Now, the Jesuits in the Catholic Church see themselves as spiritual advisors. We are talking about spiritual elements within the content. So whose spiritual elements are going to be reflected in Disney content? No wonder they brought him on as a board member, because he helps guide their spiritual path. He helps the President of the United States now guide his spiritual path. And I found that very interesting. Very few people know that a Jesuit sits on the board of Disney. So when people ask, is Disney safe content? I will ask them, is the Jesuit order a safe organization?
And if you read the oath, I'm pretty sure you'll see right away it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not safe.
Even though that is an oath that not all Jesuits take, you got to get to that 4th vow, and that's what the 4th vow is, to crush the heads of the children and all of these things. But the first 3 vows, it takes you 20 some odd years, 30 years to get to that 3rd.
You know what I love about the Bible? Jesus addresses all of this. If you lead one of these children away, it would be better if you had a noose tied around your neck and you were thrown in the depths of the sea. Try saying that in today's politically correct environment.
And was he doing it out of hate or out of love?
No, because that's how much passion he has for children.
That's right.
And he was very, very, very like, listen, somebody
You don't touch the children.
Don't touch the children. And we'll look at the world we engage in today. The children are just under major attack.